Soothe and moisturize your dry mouth and sore throat with your handmade moisture mints. I started off with making a strong licorice tea. I used a half a cup of water, a heaping teaspoon of chopped licorice root, and I simmered it covered for 10 minutes. Now all I'm going to need is 4 teaspoons, but it's really hard to make that small of amount. I started off putting a tablespoon of Slippery Elm Powder in my bowl. Now, some people don't want you using slippery elm because it's getting endangered. They tell you can use marshmallow root powder. But marshmallow root powder really has its own unique flavor, which I finally figured out it tastes like okra. So if you don't like okra, you're not going to like marshmallow root. Now I'm going to start off with just putting a teaspoon of my licorice root tea in there and just kind of give it a stir. And I'm going to keep adding a teaspoon at a time and stirring it up. I'm really just kind of making a paste out of it, just making sure all of it is moistened. Now I'm going to add a tablespoon of honey. Now you can add your local honey you produced yourself, but I want this to be extra powerful, so I'm going to use Manuka honey. Stir this up really good. Okay, now you can find this recipe on my book on Amazon, Making Healing Remedies with Honey and Propolis. Now, if I wanted to go a step further, I could add a tincture of propolis to this, or a propolis tincture, or a propolis glyceride. But now we're going to get this going. Now this is much like making a pie crust. I'm going to sprinkle my slippery elm powder on here. Maybe use a little more here. Just kind of mix it in really good. If none of you had experience with making a pie crust, this may be a bit of a problem for you. But you just keep adding more slippery elm powder till it's where you can roll it out. Okay. Add a little more slippery elm here to it. Put some on my rolling pin. And I want this about a 1/4 inch thick. Now if you have the patience, you could take maybe a bottle cap and make little circles, or you could take any kind of bottle cap that you have, but I'm really not that patient. So I'm just going to kind of make this into a square. And I'm going to take my pizza cutter and just turn it into squares. Now, if you are creative, you can use fondue cutters from the cake decorating department to make them in pretty little shapes. But keep in mind, whatever shape you cut them in, they need to be a comfortable size for your mouth. Now, strong licorice root tea would be half a cup of water with a heaping teaspoon of licorice root that's cut and sifted and simmered, covered for 10 minutes. Now, you can also use a licorice root tea bag. So the recipe is going to be 4 teaspoons of licorice root tea, 1/4 to half a cup of slippery elm powder, and 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm going to take an upside down paper plate. I don't know how many I'm going to need. So I'm just going to set them on top. Okay, I've got them set out on my paper plate. I'm going to leave them setting out overnight, might be 2 days, depending on how much humidity you have, to let these air dry. Now you could put them, if you have a dehydrator, you could certainly put them in a dehydrator and speed it up. Or you could put it in the oven with just the light bulb on to help dry them. But you want to come in there a couple of times a day and flip them over because you want them to dry all the way through. Now, before you start drying them, you should taste one of your mints and notice how quickly it melts in your mouth. Are they dry yet? When placed in your mouth, it should take 10 to 20 minutes to dissolve. You store these in the airtight container. It can be a jar with a lid. It can be these cute little tins. Now, moisture mints will slowly dissolve, soothing dry mouth and sore throat for 10 to 20 minutes or more. Slippery elm powder is an emulsant herb that helps retain moisture and calms inflamed tissues, and it also supports gut health. The licorice root is antiviral, anti-inflammatory, an expectorant, antispasmodic, also a soothing emulsant for throat and gut. And this recipe and many others can be found in my book on Amazon, Making Healing Remedies with Honey and Propolis, and it's in large print. And I will leave a link in the description bar. I'm Carolyn Gibson at Carolyn Gibson Herbalist on YouTube. And you might be an herbalist if you make moisture mints. Like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss any of these recipes.